So this is pretty much going to be another talking head video. I can't walk around because, as you guys can see, it's raining. So I'm just under this little umbrella thing at work. I'm on my break right now. My schedule changed a bit, so my work schedule is a little different. Hopefully we get the car back this week, but that's what this video is about. Not this car, but all the cars. And you're probably wondering, like, especially for new people, what do you mean by all the cars? I've had a lot of cars. I have a list here of most of them that I could remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, or 26. Well, it's 24, 25, or 26 cars, somewhere around there that I have on the list. I've had more than that because I've had like 14 E36s alone. This is the 14th one, but 6 of them or 7 of them were parts cars, and I only have one parts car that I have listed here because I think that's the only one I have parts from, like pictures of, or a picture of. And I'm also going to try to get pictures of each of these cars. I know a few of them I won't have any pictures, because the only way I'd be able to do that is looking back through the videos, and I don't even remember like when I had them, so that would be super hard to do. So I'll probably just put like a generic picture of the car, because they were all basic bone stock whatever cars that I just had. So we'll start off with initially how I got into cars. I was trying to get a picture of this car. I'm gonna message my dad again because he's actually in Jamaica right now. I'm gonna see if it's possible for him to get a picture of it. But the first car, the first fun car, and the car that got me into cars, was an R33 Skyline GTR. So my uncle had one. This was back in the day, and back then his car was pretty known in a sense, but he was a low-key guy because literally all he did was work. So he had a couple fast cars. He had the R33 GTR, and then I think it's called the Ford Lightning, the same kind from Fast and the Furious. It wasn't red, it was black, but that supercharged V8 Ford truck. He had that same model in black, and that one made like 600 or 700 horsepower. And I was born in 1992, and I was maybe 10 at the time, 8 to 10 years old, maybe a little older, I don't remember. But I was into cars like from when I was a baby pretty much. But the first experience I've had with like a fast car was the GTR, because we didn't drive in the Lightning because it was being built at the time, because that was like a new car for him, so that was getting built. So the GTR, he had like literally everything from front to back was upgraded. It was silver, had the blue stripes on it, kind of like the one that was in Fast and the Furious, but this was before Fast and the Furious. So like the car, it looked, the Skyline from Fast and the Furious looked pretty much like his, but he had it before Fast and the Furious, like how it had the 2 blue lines going across it. I don't remember if he had 2 or if he had 1, but he did have a blue line going across the car. But that back then made close to 800, but we didn't drive it on the 800 horsepower setting, I believe, because he didn't get the gas additive, so he couldn't put it on that map. But he had 3 or 4 maps at the time that were like on a boost dial. So back then you had like piggyback ECU that looked kind of like a little Game Boy looking thing. The Apexes, a lot of people probably don't even know what that is because they weren't into cars back then. But he had like an Apexi ECU, and that Apexi was modified, and he had a whole bunch of different things. Like back then, a lot of people were not doing what him and car people were doing, especially since he was in Jamaica. So getting things in Jamaica is very hard, and you have to pay, I believe the tax, import or duty or whatever, is like 60%. So let's say if you have a part that's $1,000, you'll be paying $1,600. So that's how it went. And then, you know, He was a truck driver, so people were able to do things differently, let's just say. Not illegally, but differently. So yeah, we drove in that Skyline, and that's one how I fell in love with the RB engine, because of course he had an RB26. It had, I don't remember if it was single turbo, twin turbo, but oh my, it had everything done. HKS, everything, Apex ECU, wheels lowered, brake upgrade, steel stainless lines, interior modified, gauges everywhere. It was man. I always wish like I could buy that car, and if it's still around one day, I do want to buy it. I'll really hunt. I'll go to Jamaica and hunt the car down and buy it if I have to, if it's still around. But that would be super sick. But yeah, so we were driving and we were on the low map. I didn't know this because I've never experienced a car that was faster than an E36 M3, because my uncle had an E36 my uncle in America had a silver E36 M3, like a 95 or 96. So that was the fastest car I was ever been in, and he didn't drive that car. Well, he didn't drive that car fast when we were in it because we were little kids, like maybe 7, 8 years old. But a car triple the horsepower was insane to me, and we were driving it on a map that was maybe 450, and it just blew the sound of the blow-off valve and everything. It just blew my mind. Plus he's like a real driver, and if anybody's ever been to Jamaica, you know, like the mountain roads, there's roads that would be like the width of maybe a lane or a lane and a half of an American road, but that's 2 lanes. You have mountain on one side, and you have like a mountain, like the up part of the mountain on one side, and then you just have a drop. Like there's no guardrail, there was none of that. So if you couldn't drive, you're done for. 2 trucks would be flying, one going up the hill, one going down the hill, and all types of stuff. But if you've ever been to Jamaica, you'd know how the roads are back, especially back then. I know it's a little different now, but back then it was not how it is. So we're flying up and down back roads, mountain roads, rowing through gears, doing pulls and everything. And then he's like, okay, let's go into the next map. So I don't even know what that is. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, we're gonna go into the next map. It's gonna be faster, more boost. So we go into the next map, and like while we're doing a pull, he goes into the next map, and then it feels like the car, like the way Fast and the Furious, like when they did the nitrous, that's what it felt like. It was, man, this video is making me miss the Skyline. I do want to get another one so bad, because there's really nothing like an RB powered vehicle. Like there's nothing. Not a V10, not a 12 cylinder. There's nothing like the sound of a turbo RB. No, there's nothing. I don't care. Don't at me. Argue what you want. Don't care. RB, best sounding engine. But anyhow, that's like my story of how I got into car, or my first experience with a fast car. I was always into cars because, you know, kids are like, especially boys, that's dinosaurs, monster trucks, reptiles, cars, building stuff. I was into everything, but cars always took a top tier. And a car that I always used to draw was the old Corvette, like the one that was in Rush Hour. I'll try to put a picture of it somewhere, but I used to draw it because just the lines of the car were just so beautiful to me back then, and I just never knew what it was. I just always liked it. But from then I ended up getting into different things like video games, RuneScape, and anime, and different things like that. But it's just like, in the back of my mind, I always knew like my thing was cars. So that's ultimately what I got into, and how you guys see me today, and how I have or had so many cars, and I've experienced so many cars. And I'll also talk about why I go through cars, because a lot of people don't understand it, but I'll tell you why, and whether you understand it or not, cool. But yeah, let's get into my first car. So my first car was a like a pearl white Lexus SC 400. We had 19 or 20 inch TSW wheels on it. I got it from my uncle. I was about 15 years old. I only drove it a couple times because it wasn't maintained very well, so it didn't always drive too good. But yeah, so that was like my first car. I sold my Yu-Gi-Oh cards because I was into Yu-Gi-Oh cards and dueling people for cards. So had a good collection of cards back then when the cards were a little cheaper. They weren't that expensive, but I sold my cards for about $1,200. We bought the car for like $1,000 or $1,100, and then we did like a couple little things like the fuel filter, spark plugs, and a couple little maintenance things just to see, and an oil change as well. And after that, that's all we did to the car. It drove all right, but the car was driven for a long time, and the oil wasn't changed in the right intervals. And granted, 1UZs are very reliable, but when you drive, like, I think it was like 20,000 miles without an oil change, I believe they just topped the oil up once or twice in that time. But again, you're not supposed to do that, so the engine was full of sludge, so it didn't perform properly. But that car felt fast to me because it was a V8 coupe. Granted, it was heavy as hell, but that car was kind of fast to me. It was cool, it looked nice, it had nice wheels. So that was my first car. Then I had a Toyota Corolla or Camry, I don't remember, but I'll have a picture of it. That car was we bought it for, I believe, $95 off my dad's coworker. I had a couple extra dollars, so my dad and I went half on a set of wheels that we bought off Craigslist. We put the wheels on, they were like 19s. That was cool to me. It's another thing people weren't really doing. People weren't really modding cars, especially people my age that I knew. So I was the only person I knew with a modded car for a long time. And that to me was mods, because we did like a radio and the wheels, and yeah, that was pretty much it. I don't remember if I did anything else to it, but I didn't have the money to do it because I was like into other things as well. And then the first car I attempted to modify, and my first time experiencing like a car community, was my Honda Civic. I had a red EM2 Civic Coupe. It was automatic, slow as hell. Don't buy cars, especially Hondas, from Puerto Ricans. Worst thing you could ever do. I'll get into a story with that car as well. Oh, actually, how I got to this car was, so one day my dad was doing me a favor, and he was getting gas for my car. So he got gas for my car, and right before he turned into the driveway, a woman was on her phone and she rear-ended the car. So the insurance paid for like a $2,000 paint job and a new parts, like new front bumper, new side skirts, new rear bumper, new trunk, and then they painted the whole car. So we bought that car for $95. We sold it for $2,500, and then we split the money, and then I put the money that I had already to buy the Civic, which I think was like $2,000 or $2,500, something like that. But yeah, that Civic, I did a couple little things. Like I did my first like thing with paint, so I painted like the little front like hood lip. I had a couple sets of wheels on that car. That was the first car that I bought coilovers for. I still do have a couple of them, but it was like the coilover spring sleeve that goes on top of the stock struts. That was the first time that I experienced being scammed in the car community, because the Honda community, I'm pretty sure it's still the same way, is shitty overall. So the guy, he told me like, oh yeah, if the strut thing comes right back out, that means it's bad. Of course, I didn't know any better, and he was older than me, so I believe he was telling me the truth. I go to try to install them, and I saw like the castle nut and everything was welded together with rust, so I couldn't even get the stock struts off. I didn't have money to bring the car to a shop, or to bring the car to a shop for mods, because I was told at the time, like, oh yeah, we don't do anything custom. If we were to install those springs or whatever, it would be like $1,000. So I'm like, yeah, no, I can't afford $1,000 to do like springs. That's dumb. Like, replacing stock ones would have cost me like $120 or something like that back then. But yeah, so with that Civic, what brought me over the edge was, let's see. So one day I'm driving to work. I used to work at a thrift store at the time. This was like a job that I only had for a few weeks. But on my way to the thrift store, I smelled like a sour smell. If you know the smell of like an electrical fire, I smelled that. So I turned the AC off because I thought something was wrong with the AC. And I still smelt it. And I kind of heard like a little crackling noise. So I turned the radio down. And like, turning the radio down, like, I moved my hand off and the radio kind of pulled forward a little bit. So I pulled the radio out and flames came out. So I pull over, I throw my smoothie into the radio hole, the flames go away. And I see like all the like the wires. It was wired for a sound system as well, that they took the sound system out. You know how Puerto Ricans are. They took their radio out. And they took their radio out and put another radio in, which was the radio that was in the car. The car alarm was wired to that and everything. Like, so it was just a bunch of speaker wires wiring a whole bunch of things that should not have been wired with speaker wires. And nothing was soldered or anything like that. Nothing was covered or with electric tape. It was masking tape, like tan masking tape, painter's tape. So that it arced and caught fire, and that's what happened. But luckily I caught it super early. The car didn't burn down. From that day, I listed it up for sale, and I took a huge loss on the car because I spent so much money trying to fix it. But that also brings me to backtrack, and that was, before I bought that car, I was actually going to buy an E36, a red one, because it reminded me of my uncle's silver M3, but this one was a 325. I didn't end up getting it because my dad told me, oh, BMWs are unreliable. You remember your uncle's. My uncle's was unreliable because I believe he kept putting like 87 gas in it or something instead of 93, so it didn't run properly. But yeah, it wasn't an unreliable car by any means. But yeah, so after I sold that car, I got some more money together, and what the hell? I got some more money together, and I ended up buying a Mercedes CLK 320. And this also brings up a story about when I got my high speeding ticket, which I'll say in another video. But I had that car for a little while. I did maintenance on it. I put had a couple set of wheels for that car. I wanted to do like a screen, like a double din in that car, but they were too expensive for me to be able to afford. And I was also a sneakerhead at the time, so I couldn't afford my sneaker habit and clothes habit and modding that car past like wheels and maintenance, so I never did it. But we had that car for a little while. We bought it for a good deal. It was like $4,500. My dad also helped me with that, because that's one thing about my dad. If I help him with things like house stuff or anything like that, he would help me do whatever I want, because, you know, that's just how he is. So we bought that car, and we sold it for a little more than we bought it for. I had that car for maybe a year and a half, 2 years or something. And this brought me to the first car that I really modded, which is the E36, and that's what started this YouTube channel. That's what started this YouTube channel where I'm at now, like modifying cars. So I bought that car. I did like blacked out tail lights and different little things like that. Jesus, these goddamn flies. I did little things like that. I did a lot to that car. It was for my first time. I did like a chip tune. I lowered it on race lands. I had 30 sets of wheels on that car. That was the first time I ever fender rolled a car. That was the first time I ever did any kind of body work because I got sideswiped. It was the first time I ever did a wide body kit because I put over fenders on the car. That was my first car that I had 3-piece wheels with. I also believe I was the first person to put work VSKFs on an E36, especially that wide because my work VSKFs were super wide. But I ended up, like, somebody saw it on Instagram or from YouTube and bought my wheels before I actually got to put tires on and everything. So then I ended up getting like another set of wheels. Or no, actually at the time I was into the whole super wide wheel thing. So by that time, after I did a whole bunch of different things like race seats and all that, and the car was automatic, first car straight pipe, everything, I did so much with that. But I wanted a 350Z, so I ended up parting out the E36 and I got a 350Z. The 350Z was the first car I ever painted, wide bodied. I did my bag install by myself because I couldn't afford to have anybody do it. People are trying to tax me saying like $2,500 for the install, $3,000 for the install, $4,000 for the install. So I did it myself in the snow, and I mean, I did it. I had tons of sets of wheels. I had super wide 3-piece wheels on that car. I brought that car to like tons of car shows. Brought the E36 to car shows as well, but 350Z, I was everywhere with that car. Yeah, like that was actually a great car. I do want another 350Z one day. But after that, that whole thing with the 350Z and everything's documented on the YouTube. I got another E36. I don't remember which one it was, like, because I've had so many I forget the timeline of when I had it. And in that time I also had an E53 X5 of 4.4, but I had it after the 350Z during the time that I had whatever E36 I had next. Yeah. Oh, so that was the black E36 that I had the Krans Reyes on, but that car was like rotted out. I was gonna do like a whole bunch of stuff, but I got flaked on with the work and all that kind of things. But I had a ton of things for that car, and so I sold it, and then that's how I had the RB25 swap Skyline a few years back. So I had the Skyline. You guys know I bagged that. I had a whole bunch of different sets of wheels on it. I did the pink NRG seats and a bunch of stuff to that car. That's the only car I do regret selling. I do want to get another one like I mentioned before. But yeah, that's one thing that I do remember. There was a lot of stuff with the Skyline and as well that is in the what do you call it? It's all on YouTube documented. After that, I got when I sold that car, I bought a I don't remember if I had the 6-speed swapped E36 first, or if I had the E92 M3 first. But I bought the E92. Oh no! So I bought the E92 M3, and then I saw the 410EG swapped E36. That was pretty much a track car. And then I also had like T37s for that OGs, like 18 by 9.5, 18 by 10.5. I probably have a picture of that somewhere. I ended up flipping that car in like 24 hours. I bought it for like $2,000 or $2,500 delivered. And then I posted it up for sale, and I had somebody who wanted it. I think they bought it for like $4,000. And that was without the extra parts that I got with it. I made a good amount of money on that car, and that's part of how I was able to get the supercharger for the E92 M3. In that time, I had an E36 parts car. I had an E38 740 IL, the silver one that was owned by Ernie Bach Jr., who owns like a whole bunch of dealerships in Massachusetts. I don't know where else. I had the track E36, which was the Motoiq E36, which was actually the benchmark E36 that I used like a long time ago to mod my future ones. Like, I bought so many parts based off that car, and I never thought like I would own it, because it's never a car that I thought, oh, I would own that, or not that I thought I would or not that I never thought I would own it, but I never thought about it, because it's like, it was pretty much a normal 323, but it was like an M3 clone. But I ended up owning that car, and it was a great car. I went to Maryland to buy that car, I believe. I think it was Maryland or Ohio or Virginia, one of those places. But yeah, so I had that for a little while. There's a couple videos I have on YouTube, like when I saw my uncle's my other uncle in Buffalo is 911 930 turbo, the wide body one. What else? I have the Dakar E36, you guys know of that. After the Dakar, I had another, or during the time of the Dakar and the Track E36, I had another E38. And then I had, after the Dakar, I had a E53 X5, the first black E53 X5 that I showed on the channel, which I had a bunch of videos on. And then after the E53 X5, well, I had them at the same time, but I sold the Track E36 and the Dakar E36 to buy the E70 X5M and to pay for like some different things in life. And then 2 months later, the car got totaled. Which sucked, but I really did love the E70 X5M. That's also another car on the list that I do want to buy again. So after the E70 X5M, there's the E53 4.6 that I had some time ago. That wasn't too long ago, and I had the CL63 and the E38 750 IL. Which you guys still see, the CL63, the E53 was sold. I parted that out not too long ago. That was this year. The E38 750 IL, the shell's still in the yard. CL63 still giving me issues, and I've had that car for quite a long time. The CL63 is one of the cars that I've had for the longest, and that's mainly just because it's still fucking broken. But now we are to current day, and I have the LSE36, which I've had for a few months and I've barely driven, and you know, that's just how it is. I usually pick the short end of the stick, but usually with these things like the E38 750 IL, I bought that thing for like $3,000 or whatever, and I ended up making like $9,000 parting it out. I forget, I made a video about it, but I did make a good amount of money parting that car out. So jokes on the dumbass who sold it to me. I'm pretty sure he thought he got one over on me. Joke's on you. You could have made a lot more money, but anyhow. Yeah, the LSE36 and the CL63. I hope the LSE36 comes back this week. I want to make a lot of content on that car. And granted, I am thinking of selling it, because the way, one, I hate blue cars. Two, it's like, oh, you can paint it, but then the engine bay is going to be blue. And then the door jambs and everything are going to be blue. And then also, if I paint it, it's going to be gone for like a week or two, because it's going to be a Mako paint job. So it's just like, I don't want more downtime with the car. So I may get it back and sell it and get something else, or trade it for another LSE36, or trade it for an LS1 series, an E82. But whatever happens, happens, because again, you guys know I go through cars. But speaking of going through cars, let me tell you guys about that. So one thing I've always been told, like since I was little, life is short. Years back, I lost my best friend who was killed. She was like killed in a drive-by shooting. And it's weird because she was like in a suburb and stuff. So that story has always been weird. But it's just like, that is one thing that always taught me, like, life is super short. So just experience everything you can. And I've been fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to have owned close to 40 vehicles, and I'm 30 years old. Granted, they haven't really been anything crazy, but like they're just things that I've always wanted. So it's like, now I'm getting to the point where like the project cars and stuff are cool, like the E36, like the LS. I love the car, don't get me wrong. I've always wanted an LS E36. I've always wanted tons of cars. There's still tons of cars that I want more, but it's like, one, I want something a little newer so I can mod it to my liking, because the E36, like, I've had so many of them, and like I always do the same thing. Like, I buy one, I love it, I keep it for a little while, I do stuff to it, then I sell it, then I'm like, damn, I want another one, and then I buy another one. And that's probably going to happen again right now, like, or not right now, but when I get it back, I'm going to make some content on it and list it for sale, and probably do a little things here and there, and then I'm going to be like, damn, I want another one. But it's just like, you know what, such is life. If I want another one, I'm going to get another one. Like, as you guys can see, I haven't told you guys about all of them because I just don't remember the timeline of them, but I've had 14 of them, so it's like, I can always get another one way or another. I'll get another one. But yeah, so that car, I guess we'll just see the fate of it as time goes on. But yeah, I've had quite a few cars. I've experienced a lot. I had cars that, like, people always say, oh, I never thought I would own one. I've never really been that person, because everything I have, everything I have or have had, I knew I would have, because I put everything out into the world. I make vision boards. I work, whether that be work like my job, or work like I'll go buy and sell stuff. I'll go do Uber Eats, Grubhub, side jobs like helping people fix stuff, build stuff. I'll help somebody put like a bumper on a car. I'll throw events. I'll do security. I'll do whatever. YouTube doesn't really make me any money. Like, I make maybe $50 a month on YouTube. Like, but this is more so just for like me documenting like my car stuff and a little bit of myself. Like this video, because one day I'm gonna look back at this video, I'm probably gonna be 60 cars in at the time in a few years. Probably gonna be in a different, well, I am gonna be in a different state, hopefully with lots of cars. Or no, not even hopefully. That's another thing. Like, I always speak in hopefullys and stuff, but I always correct myself and say I will, because once you say you will, and as long as your effort follows behind it. But yeah, this is probably, I'm pretty sure we're 20 minutes in or so. But this video is just to say, you can have a lot of nice things if you have really bad spending habits. And granted, this car stuff, has it fucked up my life? Absolutely. But was it fun? Absolutely. Anything bad that happened, I can always fix it. You know, unless you die. Don't die. Dying is probably not fun. But yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm kind of done rambling now. So let me know how many cars you've had, what cars you've had, what cars are your favorite, what cars you sold that you regret, what cars you regret buying, what cars you regret not buying. I don't know. Let me know your social security number, name, address, date of birth, front and back of your debit card, security code, bank login information, stuff like that. Whatever you want to tell me, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to try to get pictures of these cars and put them throughout the video. Yeah. Peace.